Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here. And now, for the first time, we are bringing to you the full story of what happened on that fateful day. We are giving you all the evidence based only on the secret testimony of the miserable souls who survived this terrifying ordeal. The incidents, the places. My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer. Let us punish the guilty. Let us reward the innocent. My friend, can your heart stand the shocking facts about grave robbers from outer space?
Welcome to Dead to Cinema. I'm Stephen Mominex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching latest releases. However, sadly, put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we missed, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the others' opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
Hey, fun little fact that we just stumbled upon. This is episode 56, and this movie was made in 1956. You know, just a fun little thing.
Just a
really.
Factoid, an interesting
yeah, why
thing.
not? I don't know. I thought that was cool.
With future events such as these will affect you in the future, it's good to know what the present events are affecting the present.
Exactly, yeah. We've talked about a fair share of, quotes, bad movies on here, or so bad it's good. I think this is the one, though, that... And, whether we're talking about something like the Star Wars Holiday Special, which you and I both agree is bad.
It's not a movie.
I don't know what I'm trying to get at. It's like, there's different ways of enjoying stuff that's bad. But then the closest thing, I guess, where this stacks for me is the review we did for Catwoman. And we were both legitimately positive on that. Like, I can totally see why someone would hate that. But I'm kind of going to go on the same train here and just say, you know what, I really don't think this is the worst thing ever, and in some ways I think it's legitimately good.
Yeah, this movie's not bad. It's not good, not by a long shot. It's very boring, but it's not bad. Like, it's made competently. There is a fairly good story here. I like the anti-war agenda that it gets into. It's just the pacing is so pedantic. Our last episode, The Toxic Avenger, is like the exact same runtime as this, except this feels like 3 times longer. And that's the problem. That, and also, like, Bela Lugosi doing an impression of himself and not having any lines, and, like, the narrator. And I made, like, a little reference already.
The
way it
Bela
opens,
Lugosi died
right
before
after
this movie was even shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Ed Wood?
Yeah, I've seen the biopic.
Okay, so you kind of know the history of this movie a little bit.
Well, not this movie, but of Edward D. Wood Jr.'s career.
Yeah, but which that movie does go into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that movie's...
As far as how
I think that's probably Tim Burton... I would assume that's probably Tim Burton's favorite film of his. Just because he knew Ed Wood. He was kind of like his mentor to an extent, I think. And then also they share certain sensibilities. I think they're both from Burbank. So you could tell with that one it was a passion project, and just how zany it is. Like the Ed Wood movie I wanted to see first was Glen or Glenda, just because for obvious reasons. But yeah, I guess thank you for picking this, because I definitely wouldn't have seen it for quite some time, and with good reason. Like, not because it's supposed to be one of the worst movies of all time. Just this isn't an interesting movie. It's like I said, it's boring.
I will counter that just a little bit, because this was one of those picks that was purely motivated because there was a screening, which, I do that a lot, but that does give me the perfect excuse of getting out there to go see something and then to review it back on this. So I saw this at a rare 35mm screening, in that I guess
this had to be
prints for this, evidently they just don't really exist anymore. And what was even more special is that this print was struck in 2013. So it looked really fucking good. honestly. And like that is one thing that did surprise me, because I thought it wouldn't make a difference. This movie, like I looked at Blu-ray.com, copies of this movie look like shit. I assumed it would be just an amateurish looking movie, but no, like there's some really well composed shots visually. Like there's some cool atmospherics, stuff in the graveyard with the mist and all that. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's things like that where I'm watching and I'm just going like, well, this isn't like really bad, like as far as The Room having so many shots that are out of focus, or just a weird mixture of HD footage and stuff shot on film. Like, there's details here, like even with the sound design, it's like there is like genuine love for what's being put on screen, even if it is obviously cheap on in some way. Like you can tell that the flying saucers are just hanging off on strings.
They look good,
like,
though. I liked them.
Yeah, it's like that's little short film that they show at the end of Super 8 and the end credits, the thing that the kids made with all the cheap effects there. It's like, even though it's cheap and there's still that love for it there, that just I can't help but kind of like at least enjoy that on some like level, that they did that they actually made that, and I think that's really fucking cool.
To counter your counterpoint, I just like the Toxic Avenger before it, I watched this for free on YouTube. It's available. There's like several copies. And
this movie is in the public domain too, so anyone can find it.
This isn't the kind of film that has to be in the public domain, because you'd have to be crazy to pay to watch this. And it did look like shit, but the sound was good.
I did pay to watch it, to be fair, but I did see probably the best looking version of it that's out there.
I agree, though. This is very atmospheric. It's just the way that Vampira looks, Bela Lugosi being Bela Lugosi, the graveyard stuff, the fog. Anytime they're in the graveyard, it feels like Halloween. Like it is pretty spooky. Like not scary. The lieutenant, the big hulking dude, he's kind of scary. Like he's the prototypical
Johnson
zombie.
Yeah, like he's one of the guys that worked a lot with Ed Wood, I think. I have not seen the Tim Burton movie in a long time, but I think he's a central character in that, or that he's at least been in a ton of his stuff.
Probably, but I don't even know how to really talk about this film, because there's some, like I said, there's some really great stuff outside just the way it looks, but then you also have like the very cliched like B-budget sci-fi genre stuff, where you have these cops doing like the stupidest things. You have like this detective scratching his neck with his pistol at one point,
like pointing it at himself on purpose too. That is a note, and I guess Ed Wood didn't notice. Like, I can't deny that like this is sort of inept in some way, that he was completely oblivious, and that he kind of didn't necessarily know what he was doing. Like, but yeah, at the same time, he still made the fucking movie. Like, I think just because it's an Ed Wood film, that kind of makes it special, because he's not working the way that everybody else is doing. You see the filmmaking mistakes there, and it makes it a lot more fun to watch. Like, some of the professionally made 50s sci-fi flicks that came out of this era, like I like The Day the Earth Stood Still a lot, and this is kind of this does follow that same message in a similar way. But I don't know, there's things like the original The Thing from Another World, or It Came from Outer Space, or even Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like those are movies that I kind of find boring, and yet like I found this one to be just as good as at least Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and if not like maybe more endearing because of its flaws. I seriously, I think this can stand up decently, at least to those other movies, without having all this shit being called out on of it being one of the worst movies ever made.
I mean, believe it or not, I haven't seen any of those examples you just listed.
But those are professional Hollywood productions, and like even for how cheap this is, even if like you're kind of looking for it going in because of this movie's reputation, but. It's like, yeah, I think they're at least able to successfully pull off with the limitations of what they had at the time and with the budget of making this convincing.
No, yeah, it's totally convincing. That the police outfits, the military stuff, the planes, the UFOs.
Yeah, the use of like stock footage and all that.
Stock footage, like
it's
the war
still
footage.
All well put together, that at least within the world of this film, I can buy it well enough.
No, yeah, it's a plausible. Like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's very plausible. Yeah. Like it has a message that tries to get across. It has like the really kitschy stuff that happens throughout. But like just the way it opens and ends with that opening and closing narrative of this guy talking to the audience, like this is the future. Be aware of the future. I love the way it ends when he's like, they laughed at it when vitamins were made and radio and even television. In my head, I was like, yeah, what about virtual reality? And it's like the whole crux of this film is beware. This is 56. Like we just blew up Japan.
Like,
and it's
10
like
years earlier.
It was still recent.
11 years earlier.
It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, like
history.
they bring up the atom bomb in this, and a really, actually, I think a good moment, at least in the end.
Oh no,
when
yeah,
they're
that
talking about,
ending scene is great. Like if you just watch that, it's like how could you call this a bad movie? Like bad movies.
It's like there are clearly ideas here, even if the script is rushed, even if Ed Wood's kind of doing most of these things in one take and just not really giving a shit about the mistakes. Like here's the thing. This is actually the only movie of his that I've seen, but based on what I've seen from the Tim Burton film and then seeing this movie, like I'm convinced if he was the type of person that at least took his time, instead of rushing out the script in 2 weeks or 2 days, however long it was, rushing the movie to make it cheap and as fast as possible, if he took his time to at least consider how to structure all these things together, he could have been, one of the best at least directors of this period, because he clearly has a vision. He clearly at least knows that he wants to say something. It's not like, Tommy Wiseau, who's, you don't know what the fuck he's necessarily trying to say. And every time he has an interview for that movie, for The Room, it sounds like he's saying something completely different to the point where, are you even really sure that, is there anything being said, or is this just an amazing accident? But with this, it's like, no, there's clearly something that he's going for.
Yeah, I wasn't totally going for it, like I said. I didn't fall asleep or anything, but I did have to get up at one point. I paused the movie. I was like, it's only halfway over. How the fuck's it only halfway over? This thing is like, it's like 73 minutes, and it's like 78 minutes.
Really,
or something.
like the only reason why you watch this movie is because of who made it, and it's like the fact that it has that reputation of being one of the worst movies ever made. But that is just the fact that Ed Wood made movies the way he did, different from everybody else. That's what makes it far more interesting than all that other stuff to me.
I really like some of the stuff here. I already kind of talked about the atmosphere and the tone, not the tone, but the musical, just the way it's scored in the graveyard in particular, like very atmospheric. But when you get like those shots of Hollywood with the UFOs over like CBS, NBC, ABC, there's even like an Eartha Kitt marquee in there, and just the fact that it's a Hollywood movie set in Hollywood, like everyone's coming here, or maybe it's like San Fernando Valley or Burbank or whatever.
I think it's San Fernando, like that's where they shot this, but it's very much an independent or it was financed by a church. That story, right?
Not really.
That was part of Ed Wood, is that they got their money from a church, and that if they made this film, then they would depend on the success of this one for the church to make more Christian-oriented, pro-religious films, to the point where everyone in the crew got baptized. Like it's a moment that happened in Ed Wood. It's and where he kind of cons them into it.
I found
really
a producer.
Funny, it's insane that happened, though. But that's again, that Ed Wood does have that producer mentality where he can at least kind of con somebody into giving him money to get a movie made. So it's really fucking amazing how there should be a separate movie just for how this whole production came together. Because I would love to know more about it. Probably
my favorite thing in this whole thing. Well, first off, just like a fun fact, when the military opens fire on the UFOs, my washer or dryer kicked in. I guess someone was doing laundry, and it felt like the missiles were actually going off. Like I was sitting in a D-box seat, which was pretty awesome. But my favorite thing in this whole film, and I want to find it on YouTube just so I can send it to people when they say it's a bad film, is when the lieutenant or whoever he is, the detective, the inspector actually, the big dude, when just the way his resurrection is shot with the dirt pulsating and then caving in, and the way he comes out of the grave, that whole thing is very, very spooky. Just perfectly executed. The way his makeup looks, I'm guessing he had eggshells in his eyes because this is pre-contact lenses. Everything about that, for whatever, maybe it's 3 minutes or so, the exposition going on around it, the people talking, and the cops walking around the graveyard, that sucks. But him, just his screen presence, because he sucks when he's alive, but once he's dead, this like hulking figure, this giant as he's called by the
Yeah.
aliens. Oh man, just the way he's introduced, it's like night and day, literally, of who his character is, and it made it a lot more interesting than it could have been. But it's so. It's
Like, there really are strengths here. It's just, obviously there are the little things that you can't help but laugh at, I guess, where
it's just
there's
unbalanced.
moments like that, but then you get that long take of just him walking around like a zombie, and then you got the girl sleeping in the car, and then she just screams and then faints before she even gets touched. It's like, just some of this amateurish directing, like, it's like, several mixed emotions here, because it's like, is me laughing at that, like, supposedly what makes it really bad? Because there are so many other, like, strong elements here, and it's just like, I can't look at this really like a normal movie. I can look at it in the same way as I watched that little short at the end of Super 8 during the credits and enjoy it in that sense of, I kind of just like more of what it is that they made and what they got out of it. Like, this is, it might sound pandering, but this is kind of like, a kid comes up to you, shows you a drawing, and you just kind of pick it up and you're like, you know what we're going to do with this drawing? I'm going to put it on the fridge right here, so that everybody can see it. It's like, and like when I'm saying that, like, that's kind of what I would do with this movie, but it sounds like such a dickish thing to say, but it's like, it's true in the best possible way, I think.
No, that's fair. Just I doubt I'll ever watch this again. It's not something that I would recommend to people. Like, if you love genre films, especially B-budget, if you're a big fan of Tim Burton and you love that Ed Wood biopic, like, there's reason to see this. It's like I said, it's not bad. It's just, it's so unbalanced. You have these great, like, humanistic messages, mostly towards the end, and then you have, like, this cool spooky stuff, but then you have people with great screen presence that don't have lines of dialogue, and you have an overuse of narration, and you have okay effects, but they're used like in a really weird way, and just there's not any real background on these aliens, like where they're from, why they're here. Like, it's like, oh, don't blow up the universe, and they mean to say solar system here, but
it's all in service of that message.
But
really.
it's just like, you could have made that message within 60 minutes and done it well.
Yeah, there are those ideas there. They're just not really all that well fleshed out. It's more like, first idea that comes to his head, he writes it down, and that's it.
But the execution for other things, in terms of, like, the zombie stuff, awesome. I mean, this predates, Night of the Living Dead by, like, a good 10 years almost.
Yeah, at least a decade.
And even still, like, these are clearly zombies. They're resurrected dead who are brainless, and they're except they're being controlled by outside forces. But just the way that they're kind of dealt with, like, you shoot them a couple times and they turn into bones. Like, they don't even decay; they just go bones, and no one even questions that. Like, you have that line of dialogue. It's like, next you're gonna tell him you saw a skeleton tonight. He's like, well, I did actually. I emptied a full clip into him and nothing happened. And they turned into bones. Like, it's so just kitschy. Like, that's the perfect word for it. Like, it's not campy because it's not funny. I didn't laugh once. Like, I was expecting to. I was looking for something bad, but there's not really,
like, you could not, like, find at least, like, I mean, there's, like, things like, I don't know, just like those two grave diggers where they're like, oh, what's that sound? Like, oh, I don't know, but whatever it is, it's gone. Yeah, that should be both of us too. We're going right now.
With an audience, this would probably get laughs.
It definitely was. It got a lot of laughs.
Watching at home, when I've been, mostly watching actual horror, it's just like, okay, like, this is interesting.
Like, yeah, I do think that's fair, is that I would not have been as nice to this if I watched it alone.
Well, I'm not mean to it.
It's no, and I'm not saying you're mean, but it's like, it definitely would not have been as enjoyable. It probably would have gotten a lower score from me. Because, I did watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers for the first time last year. And that was at home alone, and I wasn't really that into it, honestly.
I saw something indebted to that last year. What was the name of it? It was like Robert Rodriguez's second film. It predates Desperado, I want to say.
Are you talking about The Faculty?
No. This is way before that. Yeah, Road Racers, one word, 1994. So it's like right before Desperado. And they have, what's his name? The star from Invasion of the Body Snatchers in it. And he's in a movie theater watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But then like John Hawkes is also in the film, and he's like obsessed with the film itself and like telling everyone like, oh, they're here, and it totally is like Rob Rodriguez just showing off. I love Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm gonna make a real version. Then yeah, he made The Faculty a couple years down the line, which is just one of my favorite 90s films, well, late 90s films.
That's a really fun movie.
But you know, I haven't seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, any version of it besides The Faculty, or like you said earlier, the Day the Earth Stood Still, the remake of that either. And so this whole not even genre but era of filmmaking is kind of lost on me. The 50s stuff that I have seen is more acclaimed or thriller stuff, you know, like Hitchcockian or westerns. And then all of this stuff, like in terms, like even like Cat People to an extent, even though it's, you know, like 7 years earlier, I haven't seen it. Like that kind of genre, I'm not well versed in it in any decade, but especially from this era when it really kind of was its own thing. Like it created what the B budget is. Like it created the genre picture. Like studios such as Screen Gems or Dimension Films wouldn't exist without these kind of movies that really just kind of set up what kind of audiences like certain things.
Well, and then I think, especially with things like maybe Roger Corman or even Trauma, like if you want to directly reference it at all, I think the independent spirit of this, at least, made it seem like those movies were possible. And I would argue that you wouldn't have Toxic Avenger if you didn't have this.
Maybe I don't,
as different as they are.
I don't know if this one is the perfect example for Trauma's Trauma's presence, but yeah, like for sure, like the films of this nature that are definitely not within the studio system, that are very outside of what the Hollywood norm is, they did kind of set the tone or pave the way. Except there's so many of these, and not even just in Hollywood, but in terms of music, like look at someone like Woody Guthrie or like Bob Dylan. Despite them being famous now and popular musicians, they were still at a certain point kind of counterculture or iconoclast even, or and this film, or not this film, but filmmakers more so, like Ed Wood did. Yeah, they established you can write your own stuff and direct it and produce it and find the money and make something really bizarre and still find an audience. I think people more like John Waters are responsible to, or indebted to, the way that people like Ed Wood kind of paved the way, just because Ed Wood, even if he is quote unquote one of the worst filmmakers of all time, he was an auteur. Like you can, I haven't seen more than one of his things, and you haven't either, but yeah, I can, just in the footage I've seen, you can tell, like, he has a look, he has a style, he has...
It's probably that memory also of, like, you know, Tim Burton's movie, and that's really the only previous exposure I've had, but, I mean, and I guess it helps that you have an audience there to laugh at things who have probably, I'm sure a bunch of them had seen the movie before, and it's like... Even that final dolly pull at the end, like, you know, it's obvious that you laugh, but I was definitely not the first person to laugh out loud. I kind of had like a light snicker, and then it grew into a more audible laugh as I got more comfortable because everybody else laughed at it. Like,
it's just, it ends so fucking weird with just the idea that this whole thing, the whole movie was made by a studio to articulate that these beings are out there, these dangers are present, this is a real thing. Don't be stupid. Open up your eyes. The future is happening, you know?
And that, like, there was paranoia over UFOs in the 50s, and it's like, I mean, there's a lot of things, actually, to get out of, even if it's the way it's communicated might seem laughable, but, I mean, yeah, I was far more impressed with the ideas of that ending, even if its resolution was kind of like, you know, okay, let's just blow them up and kill them, but... Yeah, no, I mean, like, for real, like, little conversations, like, when they bring up God and they even question, like, oh, you talk about that?
It's like,
yeah, you don't think we also think about that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Moments like that where I was just like,
oh, that's a good point.
Holy shit. Like, yeah, no, that is a great point. Like, there is some legitimately good eye-opening stuff here for me.
I think if you made a supercut of this film, like, if you cut it down, and this sounds silly, like I said, it's only 70 minutes, like, just over 70 minutes, but if you cut this
thing... Just make it, like, half an hour?
Yeah, if you cut this down to, like, 33 minutes or something, you could make it into a really good film. Or like a, you know, like an episode of not the Twilight Zone, but some kind of weird TV anthology, because there's a ton of great stuff here. it's so amateurish and unbalanced and boring.
But it's also funny that you bring up the Twilight Zone, because I'm just thinking now, yeah, it kind of has that vibe in a few places, which is really cool.
Just the framing structure itself, the fact that there's a narrator telling you, like, oh, this goes on, these things are real, and that it is out of our world, it's like of a different dimension, and yet you're supposed to take something away. You're supposed to relate to the story, despite it not seeming like something that we're ever going to experience. It's Twilight Zone is such a landmark in this genre that it's hard to escape that comparison. But would you buy this one?
Well, based on the rating that you made up last week of a
fuck
literal
off.
dollar,
No.
yeah, hey, I'll go with that. No, I mean, honestly, no, this is not like I'm gonna pop this in and watch it for my own pleasure, because it's just not my taste. I think, at the very least, I definitely recommend seeing it as just an interesting piece of film history. And just as far as seeing something from Ed Wood, who I still need to see more stuff, but, this is the big one that people know. This is the one that he considers his biggest achievement. Maybe I peaked too early with this, but, like, it's still unique enough that, it's like less than 80 minutes of your life. If you love movies, you at least owe it to yourself to see this. I was lucky that I saw it with a crowd. I had a blast seeing it that way. Like, it's just, it's definitely one of those movies where when I think back on the first time I saw it in the best way possible. I got lucky that it was with a fucking pristine looking print. Like, the experience is part of the factor in me, I guess, on why I'm so positive. But, I mean, yeah, like, as far as this being one of the worst movies ever, you probably, if you're a hardcore cinephile, you should see it to make that judgment for yourself. I don't think it's terrible. I mean, I tend to admire ambition, honestly, more than I admire movies like succeeding. Like, I don't know. I enjoy the Matrix sequels, even if they're a little bit bloated, because they have a lot of shit on their mind. Even Jupiter Ascending, for that matter. I talked about you, I think, on the off air on this one, maybe even on air, but I talked about the Time Machine a while back, the remake that came out like 15 years ago, and I was even positive on that. I don't know, the fucking Last Born movie had a lot of shit on its mind, but got convoluted. Like, there's a lot of, I might be getting off topic on this review, but there's a lot of stuff that I at least respect here for the fact that it tried it, even if it didn't fully stick the landing like most movies that I love would have. But this is still a unique enough beast that I absolutely fucking recommend people see it.
I can't recommend this one just because there's a lot better stuff that's 80 minutes. Namely, The Toxic Avenger, because it was last week, that I like the 90-minute runtime. I think it's the perfect amount of time to spend in a world, but this one seemed way too long for me. Like, I wasn't upset. I can't be mad at this film. I agree. Like, if you are a cinephile, it is one of those things. Like, it's a perfect...
We should have been in Austin to watch it now.
Yeah, maybe. But it's a perfect debt to cinema pick, but it's just like... some things, even if you don't watch them, you can understand what it is, and like 5 minutes of this would have been enough. It's that kind of movie, and I'm not upset that I saw it. I can tell people that I have now. Like I said, I still want to see Glenn or Glenda just because that concept, in the same way that I want to see Victor Victoria for the same exact reason.
It's also far more topical here, I think, in this day and age right now.
I don't even care about that. It's just the idea that Ed Wood is playing both a man and a woman, and he was a transvestite. Like, that's just interesting subject matter. Far more so than any kind of topical message about the arms race and if you have gasoline and you put it on this ball and you light it on fire.
I imagine that could even be a podcast at this point.
What?
Glenn or Glenda?
Probably will.
Could
Probably
happen. Give it like 50, maybe 100. Who knows?
The future's now.
My friend, you have seen this incident based on sworn testimony. Can you prove that it didn't happen? Perhaps on your way home, someone will pass you in the dark, and you will never know it, for they will be from outer space. Many scientists believe that another world is watching us this moment. We once laughed at the horseless carriage, the airplane, the telephone, the electric light, vitamins, radio, and even television. And now some of us laugh at outer space. God help us in the future.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, and you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or even if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too. And also under the same name on the Love You site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.